Welcome to a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda.
Good morning. Could we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, she is. Good morning and welcome to Lorain County Board of Commissioners, Wednesday, July 23rd meeting. Ms. Beidleman, would you like to give our prayer today?
We missed you last week.
Say that again?
So we missed you last week.
Oh, thank you. I missed you guys too. I hope everybody was good. Father, we just thank you today in Jesus' name. And as we come together to hear about county government and learn what your will is for our county and just working together as a team to see things accomplished. So we just pray for that today. Pray for our commissioners and their team, and as they diligently work to make this county better and to see revenue come in. And we just continue to pray for that. We just believe you for increase in everything that they do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, Bev. Commissioner Kokoski has our dog today. My phone went off before the meeting, too. Don't worry about it.
Looks like Benji.
What a little cutie I have today. A lot of energy. She's about 9 months old. It's a he. I'm sorry, it's a he. 9 months old, Shih Tzu, maybe a mix of some sort. He was actually found on G Street, so I'm surprised my sister didn't find it and pick it up and take it home, because she does that kind of thing a lot. So if you're looking for a dog, come down to the Lorain County Dog Kennel. He will be available on the 24th, and he would love to go home with someone. He's very nice, very sweet, a lot of energy, make a great addition to your family. Thank you.
Looks like a Wookiee from Star Wars.
Yeah, his little ears, so cute. I don't know if you heard, our deputy dog warden said we're at like 95% capacity, so we really need your help. If you're even considering thinking of getting a dog, please come down there and help save the dogs from our kennel. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Okay. Investments.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Appropriations.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Transfers.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Advances.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Requisitions.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Travel.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Bills.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Number 8, authorize various personnel actions as indicated on summary sheet for employees within jurisdiction of Lorain County Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Cordez?
As you can see, We don't have a lot of personnel actions this morning. But I do wish to update you on the potential sale of, or purchase of real estate and our ongoing labor negotiations. Both of those topics are allowable under the Sunshine Act for executive session discussion, so I'd ask at the conclusion of a regular board meeting today, we go into the executive session and talk about those two items. Also, I know in here somewhere I have a potential hire at the Crime and Drug Lab that I also wish to discuss with the board and possibly economic development. And not on the sheet, because I had a couple things I wanted to talk with the board about before I sheeted them up. Thank you.
Okay. Number 9, approve and waive the reading of the Commissioners' meeting of July 16, 2014.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Kalo,
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski,
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Well, we didn't have discussion, but
Oh, that's
we
right.
had the, I gave you the modification.
Yes,
It
you
needed to be
did.
one line that just needed to be deleted.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, yes.
Okay, we'll take care of that. Okay. Number 10, advertise for bids for administration building roof replacement project. Notice to be in Chronicle on July 28 and August 4, and open at 3 p.m. on August 13th.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Number 11, amend resolution number 14-349, adopted May 21, 2014, authorizing issuance of not to exceed $2,220,000 Series 2014 Capital Improvement Plan, Improvements Bond, Anticipation Notes. The said amendment is to include vehicles.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Number 12, under Golden Acres, advertise for bids for Golden Acres Nursing Home Roof Replacement Project. Notice is to be in the Journal on July 28 and August 4, and open at 2 p.m. on August 13th.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Mr. Cortez, the money for the roof replacement will come out of Golden Acres, correct, not general fund, or is it going to be part of that bond?
We really haven't qualified that yet. Clearly, it's a Golden Acres responsibility. We run that as a separate profit center. As we usually do when issues come up out here, it's good to explain that we do not use general fund revenue at Golden Acres, nor do we use any taxpayers' dollars at Golden Acres. They have not had any assistance with taxpayers' dollars since the early to mid-90s. While things have not been good out there, some of the burn has decreased and the losses are decreasing, but they're still there. Occupancy is still down. I had initially hoped to finance the roof as part of the bond package and have them pay debt service on that portion that would belong to the home. Depending on how it looks later in the year and into next year, because we have some time on that, that may not be feasible because I may not be able to see a clear line of sight to them being around to pay the debt service several years from now. So we have to have some conversation on that at some future date, but that's a snapshot of where the thinking is right now.
But regardless, the roof replacement job has to go forward.
Well, unless we want to issue umbrellas to the residents, yeah.
Right.
So we do need the roof. It's one of those catch-22s. We're trying to survive, but we still have responsibilities, and we've patched it and patched it and patched it. It needs to be replaced.
Thank you.
And even if the home were, and I'm not saying it's going to, I don't want to start a panic, were to close in the coming years, we'd still need to secure and safeguard what is a historic building, so hopefully it can be repurposed and reused.
Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Number 13, under sanitary engineer, adopt rules for sanitary and stormwater district for maintenance of improvements and facilities in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 6117.01.
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Commissioner?
Yes.
I'm going to have to ask that you withdraw that because I realize sometimes with electronics, we press the wrong button. The version that I sent over to you was not the correct version, so I have to get you another correct version, so I'll ask that
God
we
bless computers. I'll
press
withdraw.
button, so if we can hold that till next week.
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay, number 14, under the engineer, approve and enter into an agreement with KS Associates in Elyria in the amount of $45,000 for professional engineering and surveying services for Oster Road widening and reconstruction project. Sheffield Village authorize the engineer to execute on behalf of the board with prosecutor's approval as to form. Ohio Development Services Agency will provide $700,000 for this project to help facilitate plans by Ford Motor in Avon Lake Assembly Plant to expand the production, and this agreement will be paid by TID.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just comment, speaking with Bob Kleiber from the engineer's office, on our TID application this year, we did get $50,000 for the Oster Road project and $250,000 for Griswold, correct, Bob? Yes. Right, so that helps offset some expenses, so.
Okay, Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Number 15, award contract to Erie Blacktop in Sandusky in the amount of $228,179.20 for the 2014 Chip and Seal program. 4 bids were received in July 10th, this being the most responsive, complying with specifications. Issue notice to proceed on or before September 1 and complete by September 30. Engineer's estimate was $221,838 and will be paid from account number engineer project. Authorize the administrator to notify auditor to release retainage at completion of project.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Kayla?
Mr. President,
Oh.
again,
Yes.
may I address the board on this? I just wanted the commissioners to be aware that this was not the lowest bid. There was another bid that was a few $1,000s lower. We checked with some things in Ottawa and Erie County, finding that that contractor had a whole series of problems. And
It was noted in the package, Jerry.
Right,
that
just
they were going
want to
the
make sure we
second
get
lowest
that,
bidder.
we
Okay.
get that on the record. so.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Cordez?
I have no further comments this morning, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Ennis?
I have one matter of pending litigation and one matter of imminent litigation that I would like to discuss with the commissioners in executive session.
Okay. Ms. Kukowski?
Mr. Cortez, we received a email from someone from Eaton Estates over on Alton Drive regarding flooding issues over there. They're wanting something in writing to say how it's going to be addressed, and I was thinking this is probably going to go through our stormwater district for some, hopefully, improvements over in that area.
The flooding in that area, well, there's a couple problems in Eaton Estates, and we've been addressing them systematically for a number of years. First, we can't give them anything in writing how we're going to handle the problem. The problems have been there for decades. We actually, in our trying to figure out how to say this, we may have added to that problem over Eaton Estate by fixing our sewers in accordance with EPA mandates. Lots of folks in that area had illegal tap-ins to the sewer system and the package plant, and a lot of infiltration during rainfall and so forth was getting into the plant. So we went in and we had all of those illegal taps taken out. We smoke tested everything. We're still getting a ton of infiltration over there because there's, I would say, probably 70% of the laterals are failing over there, and they're old clay laterals, and they're taking in a lot of water. But a lot of the water that used to drain off some of the properties over through the plant and into the creek doesn't drain there anymore. And I know that there's been some work done in that area with regard to stormwater. But I don't know of any plan currently that's really on the drawing board to address issues specifically in Eaton. So I would have to take a look at what their issue is. I've also had conversation with the engineer's office. We're looking at a project probably up in Cresthaven, up by the Turnpike. There's some land up there, maybe a retention basin up in that area. Because when we look to get turnpike grant money, they have $500,000 every year for projects. And if you're adjacent to the turnpike, or you can prove there's some water coming, I guess, off the turnpike or their ramps, you're eligible. So working up in that area.
Similar to the money that Amherst received.
Correct. So I'd have to get a good look at it and see. I know there's some homes that are flood prone in Eaton Estates. Like lots of places around Wayne County, we just have to look at it one by one. Since we're talking about flooding, I'll let you know that I did go out and look at Mr.
Pashoni's
property with Mr. Romanchek, and we walked that property, and half the neighborhood came out when they saw us back there walking the ditch. Every time we tried to leave, more people came out to talk about the ditch. So we're looking at some issues back there. Bob's here and Don's here. I don't know if I have anything to add about Eaton that I haven't already said. Don and Bob both work with the stormwater with us, and so Commissioner, I'll take a look at it. I don't know that we're going to be able to give a satisfactory answer at this time to the homeowner, but we can certainly take a look at it.
Also in the Journal this morning, there was talk about the retention basin in Sheffield Township. Are we involved with that?
Well, I don't
You guys
know.
had a meeting with Lorain.
Well, now that got to the Journal, that's still way back on the drawing board, and we're trying to procure land. So it really makes it hard to procure land when it's in the Journal and you're out there looking for land.
Sheffield Township has acres that they are willing to donate.
The land we're looking for isn't in Sheffield Township.
Right.
The problem, we need to get further from that issue to deal with
Before
that
it gets
issue.
there.
Right.
Correct.
And so Mr. Romanchek and I have been trying to negotiate for some land, and I really like that to be kept low-keyed so that we don't have problems with the procurement. We do have a kind of an idea of what to do, and it would help parts of Elyria Township, parts of Sheffield Township, and parts of South Lorain. Did have a meeting with Commissioner Kalo attending with the administrators in Lorain to talk about a joint project, because that would relieve some of the flooding down on Clinton Avenue, down into the homes in that area that have seen water for a number of years, and it stays
And the
very,
fire
very
department,
wet.
fire department, the township hall.
Right.
Right.
Well, that's what I said, Elyria Township, Sheffield Township, and into Lorain. It could be a unique project where we can demonstrate some cross-political boundaries, collaborations that'll work real well. First, we have to find the land, and then we have to engineer it, and then we have to do it. There's quite a few things that have to be done yet. But without the land being in the proper geographical location, much like the land we talked about last week,
Right.
it won't solve the problem.
Okay, I think Sheffield Township's actually working with the engineers, or at least that's what it was stated, in order to build that.
Well, I believe that Bill has had a conversation with, Bill does a lot of work with us in the stormwater district. So I believe he has had conversation with him, because they were doing some work in Elyria Township. Once again, like us in Eaton Estate, you fix one problem and then you
Causes
seem to
a
create
problem
another
somewhere
one.
else.
They were solving some issues in Elyria Township, which exacerbated a condition going into Sheffield Township. I am looking at a secondary piece of land that would work in Sheffield Township, but first I have to have the primary land, and then there's a secondary piece that actually does lay in Sheffield Township. But it's no sense having the Sheffield Township piece if we don't have the other piece. It just won't do the job by itself. And Bill probably has spoken to them. I'm sure he has, because the fire station has been taking water. And that's because they cleared up some of their ditches and put in a bigger tile, and they pushed a little bit more water into Sheffield Township, which
It all goes north eventually.
created a
Most
little bit more
it.
of a problem. It's again, that's why people on ditches don't understand. You work on one end of the ditch and it creates issues at the other end, and then people are mad because they never had those problems. But it's all in process, Commissioner. Does anybody in Sheffield Township you want me to talk? I don't know.
Yeah, I would give the trustees a call on it. I had a conversation with their board yesterday at the Sheffield Community Night out at the Crutcher Stadium, and there is some issues I think you may want to talk to them about, because they're moving in one direction, which is going to be opposite of what we were looking at doing.
I'll talk to them. Haven't heard that they were doing anything. In fact, they were turning to us for assistance, and we were working on it. So I'll have a conversation with them.
Okay. The other thing is the three of us, we all attended a gathering at the Children's Development Center. Our solid waste department had a grant, and we were able to provide them with some rubber mulch in that playground area, and they really had a nice cooperative with other entities that helped provide a really nice place for these children to learn and play and have a nice facility there for them. So thank you for inviting us out and recognizing us in our solid waste department for that. Other than that, I don't have much more of a report.
Yeah. A lot of things. It was very nice at Children's Development Center. Tom Miller does a great job with that organization. Yeah, this week had the opportunity, friends of mine had requested some help in recognizing a deceased relative who served in World War II, Sergeant Paul Risco, and I'd like to thank Marcy Capper's office and Nick Turner, Sherrod Brown's office, and Pat Regala, Representatives Lundy and Ramos with their state flags and the U.S. flag being taken over. They're doing a ceremony. Sergeant Risco was the first American killed in the 86 recon, and Dan Ramos did a great job talking about the entire history of it. I really got to say something. He actually had Paula Forma breaking up, who was the niece and named after Sergeant Paul Risco, and her husband Pete Pazlowski. But it was really nice, and they're heading off to France for a 70th anniversary of their uncle dying to help free the community they were in. So it was really nice. It's a great story. There was a book written about it. So just a very nice job. Thank you. This week I received a letter from Lorain County Veterans Service Office in regards to their budget hearing. We did that. We heard their hearing. They did have a request in regards to the housing part of it, and that probably ties into about 2 or 3 things. I told our county administrator about this, and Commissioner Williams forwarded the email he received from Tim Luby in regards to his proposal into discussing the 3 projects that are coming up, or 2 projects in this, the software, Tom, and then also the relocation part of adult probation.
Yes.
Okay, and that's available for anybody who wants it. I don't know where we're going on this or what we're doing. I still don't see it going to the 5th floor and expending those type of dollars. Still would like to see, I know the Veteran Service Office, Jim, if you can jump in with me, because you did tour this, the Broad Street building. You thought the Veteran Services Director Terry Stone thought would be a very good location for Veteran Services. Is that their last conversation?
We toured the building some months back, and I heard some positive comments. I couldn't tell you that his board was willing to commit, but he seemed favorably inclined to the location. I didn't pursue those conversations aggressively thereafter, because we got into a bit of a dust-up over adult probation, and so I've been trying to maintain some fluidness with the options, because the board hasn't made any firm decisions with regards to directions. I certainly hate to move the veterans into that building and then be told to repurpose it and move them around again. And then, of course, Commissioner Williams was seeking a solution at the present location that they're at, with regard to what they stated that some of their concerns were.
And actually, I mean, going by the law and looking at the ORC, we really don't have the ability to tell them where they're going to go. They have the ability, Jerry, and if you can help me with the Veteran Services, we can, not that we shall or we may. My understanding, reading it after I spoke to the president of the commissioners, Sam Batunas, stated, you know, if we give them a viable place to be at, they're fine with that, but they want to get something going on this, but we can't be the final determination.
Right, it's kind of the same situation. I think I understood what you're saying. It's when we have an obligation to provide them with a location, just as the same.
That they agree with, though. They have to agree with it.
I don't know that I necessarily agree with that
Okay,
interpretation.
well, that was their interpretation. I read through it, it's sort of like a gray area right there as
Right.
to who has the final determination, and not to get into a dust-up with veterans, but we've been talking about this for a year and a half. But I think discussion there, I still would like to see adult probation and some dollars put into the courthouse like we spoke about back in 2010, 2011, cleaning that up, and if we have room with the third floor, they did ask for PSI to go over there. I don't know if it can be constructed, you know, and cleaned up enough to keep that building operating.
I really can't answer that without getting some additional information. I certainly can move forward if the board undertakes a decision with veterans. Let me restate what I hopefully clearly said before, but maybe not have been. There's been 3 different opinions on veteran services. There's been 3 different opinions on what's going on with adult probation, and there's only one of me. Okay, so I really need at least a majority decision on a couple things so that I can accomplish what the board as a whole has decided.
Well, I think a couple of fold moving veteran services on there, I think it would probably please the city of Elyria also, being there. I mean, it's a nice feature to have in your downtown where you're providing the veteran services. It would repurpose that building that's down there with just a couple tenants in it now currently.
Correct.
And I still don't think there's any reason to shut down this courthouse, because once you shut the building down, it's gonna fall into more disrepair by not being occupied. I don't think it's in that poor of a condition. It's been looked at by the City of Elyria Building Department, our facility staff, yourself, Commissioner Kokoski, and I think if we do some cleanup and some improvements to that, we might be able to hit the goal of putting PSI in there also, and making the courts happy on that, and it's right across the street from the Justice Center.
It's all the possibilities exist. One of the things I have to add to that is eventually I need to move the crime and drug lab out of that facility with the challenges between adult probation and the crime lab and I don't want to say problems. I just want to say that the events that occurred.
It doesn't fit now.
They don't fit together well. They have some shared spaces that create some anxiety in getting the work done, and so I need to move that lab out of there, so there'll be some additional space from there. So
Facility-wise, would that fit in the gas building then? If
I wouldn't
PSI were to
actually.
go-
I probably actually wouldn't recommend putting it into that building. First of all, we handle quite a bit of, not quite a bit, but we do handle some controlled substances, and that building's all glass.
Oh, window shit,
Yeah.
okay, not a good idea then.
You know, could we secure it? Sure, but it really would be an exposed location.
Okay.
I do believe that whether we're here as stewards or somebody else is here, that eventually a drug and crime level will grow in this community as the community grows. It's a natural evolution of the services that are provided. You just have to look at some of the bigger counties and see how that's grown, just like the coroner's office eventually will grow. The needs will be there, the population will get bigger, and the services will be required. So it should be in a location that allows for some expansion and some security. It could actually go rather nicely in the building with veterans over here on Broad Street.
Oh, okay, yeah, that'd be a nice
There's
time to
room-
fill the
there's-
building up.
There's room there for that. The annex building, again, can be either repurposed or removed from inventory. That would be at the pleasure of the board at some future date. We can have discussions on that. But I do know that they have wanted to move those PSI folks over and
Right.
put all the employees together, but I don't know if that's completely possible. I have to look at that. But we had looked at it about 3 or 4 years ago when I thought we were gonna do something then.
Right. I mean, does the board have any opinion as to that, or I just want to get past all this and clean it up? I think we found that we are responsible for the housing of adult probation. I know I can't ask Jerry that question, but I believe we understand that we're in charge of where the housing should be for adult probation, and I'm just trying to get that pushed and done and over with,
Yeah.
without spending $2.5 or $3 million.
The One Park Landing is not suitable for the veterans. I just have a concern with Elyria not being a much of a central location, and especially people having to come downtown. Some people are leery, one-way streets, they kind of have issues with that, they're afraid to come down, or not afraid, but unsure of themselves, so
Why
they.
why don't we talk about the evolution of veteran services for a moment, going back sometime? It's like stormwater. You do something over here, and then you create a problem over here.
Exactly.
I've been here long enough to know that we used to have 2 locations for veteran services. And they used to have a Lorain location, and they used to have an Elyria location. Under the wisdom and thinking that came with new administrations coming out of the state years ago, they wanted this one-stop type arrangement, and the veteran services was, like a lot of places, was collapsed into one location, much like the Board of Elections was.
Right.
And it was thought that the North Ridge corridor would create a central area. Now, I know Mr. Hunter may look at this and say Sheffield Village is the center of Lorain County,
The heart.
but well,
heart
isn't
of Lorain
Avon
County.
the heart, and isn't?
No, he says it's the
Is it
heart.
Heart
Mrs.
of Lorain
Darcy is, what, no, I mean, but the center of the population base in Lorain County, it really isn't that corridor between Lorain and Elyria. That's where the bulk, if you drew a nice circle around, you'll see that about 75% of the residents, 70% of the residents can get there within a few minutes commute. That's why, I just want to give a little history, that's why they were moved out there to begin with. With regard to the One Park landing, I've had the veterans out there once or twice through 2 different directors, and I think what has come back is that they now believe that location may be too small.
Well, if they have that and a satellite office in another location, like you said, they have 2 locations, that seems more central and easy access and no problem with parking.
I think you end up duplicating staff though at that point, Commissioner, based on what those people are doing as the investigators or caseworkers they might be.
Well, they talked about doing a satellite office like in the southern part, where maybe they would have one person that would go down there in order to reach the veterans in the southern part.
1 or 2 days a week, they said.
Right.
Right.
My question, Jim, you're a veteran, and that, when I got out of the Air Force, I know what I was looking for, but when you decided to leave the military, what were you looking for?
A job.
Yeah.
And that's easy, Commissioner.
and-
They when you get out, they don't hand you a job. You got to go find one.
Right.
So the
And-
job was probably one.
I think that's the reason that it was at Job and Family Services. I think that makes the most sense. We can go through, you can go in and spend, $700,000 to $900,000 to redo the office on Broad Street for them, or we could spend $100,000 or maybe up to $200,000 and give them everything they need at the Job and Family Service building with offices, so they don't have the HIPAA violations that they're worried about, and make it useful space. We went through there in 2011. They liked the idea, but the one thing they didn't like was having to walk to the center of the building. That was one of the issues, either putting a new doorway in there or taking the existing office area that they have and building offices there for them.
I think though they've said, Tom, they don't want to be in that location anymore. And again, going back to reading the Ohio Revised Code, and again, I'll reflect back to our counselor as to who has the final determination of their location. They're stating, right?
Well, Commissioner, to maybe expand on both points, it's kind of moot who has the authority right now. It's, can we find a solution? And
Correct.
I think that's what we're talking about. Commissioner Williams makes some very salient points also with regard to further going down into the thinking of putting everybody together was a one-stop, creation of a one-stop so that people could be served on multiple levels with multiple needs. And in that building is the veterans, is voc rehab, is workforce development, is job and family service. I mean, there's many, many agencies that coexist there to create hopefully a seamless process of services. But at the same point, if the veterans aren't happy there, we don't have the ability to tie them to that one-stop network. So you both have legitimate issues. With regard to HIPAA, I really think some of the issues with HIPAA are being overstated. it's become the catch-all phrase when people want to demonstrate that they need something because we're violating HIPAA. The people that tell you they're violating HIPAA probably couldn't even tell you what HIPAA stood for. So there is some sensitivity with HIPAA, but they're not as great as what people purport them to be if you're not really in the healthcare industry or accessing medical records and things like that.
But that's their argument for the move.
Well, I
And what I'm
understand.
saying is we can go through and we can correct that at that facility.
And Tom, I'm not arguing that it isn't a good place to be with all the
Yeah.
other services that are surrounding it.
Yeah.
But in regards to what the veterans are saying, it isn't meeting their needs. And again, the grayness of the legislation, and again, they're standing on the fact that they have the ability, like they asked for that $1.3 million in their budget for a building. I mean, and that's what I think we're trying to avoid, if we can find suitable offices for them that they agree with and they move into.
My current understanding, and I have not talked to all the board members, I've talked to a few off and on, and I would like to say I do like working with Terry Stone. He's been very agreeable, and we've been able to foster a better relationship with. I didn't particularly dislike Don, but he and I were challenged a little bit on the relationship issue. And I don't wish him any ill will, but Terry's been a little bit more open about working together. But the sense I get is that they don't want to be co-located with Job and Family Services.
Correct, that's what they said here.
And so that's going to be a challenge no matter what we do at the current location. I need to add that as a factor.
Well, they've said that here publicly.
I wasn't sure what,
commission members have
we've
said
had a
it
lot of
here.
meetings, I can't remember
Right,
what
the
they said.
commission
but-
members have said that multiple times. So if that's one of the stumbling blocks, I don't see any way of overstepping that unless we're going to move Job and Family Services and keep them in that building, which I don't see that happening. So I'm trying to address this and get it done. Again, they sent a letter. They want to see some movement from the commissioners. We've been playing this for a year and a half. I'm trying to find them a new location. If we can re-show them that one possibly, if the board would agree, if they agree to it, a place to locate them. Concurrently looking at doing something with the old courthouse and moving the PSI into it, which will not be near as much money as the 5th floor move, and leave the 5th floor for eventual expansion of justice needs over the next 40 or 50 years as the building was meant for.
Do you know what the courts are looking for in adult probation?
Looking for offices, that's what our discussion is, offices.
Yeah, but do you know what their requirements are?
Everybody
Yeah.
has requirements, Tom.
You mean the footprint?
No, not the foot, but what they want to do with adult probation, and what it would take in order to meet those requirements at the courthouse, the old courthouse.
I'm not sure what
I don't
you're
know if they're
referring to.
requirements or they're requests. They
Well,
have
requests.
requests, they're not requirements by the law.
But do you know what they're requesting to have done there?
Regardless, we're
I mean,
we're the
they're,
fiduciary, we're
they're
budgetary.
meeting with an architect today
Mhm.
to look at the old courthouse, and to see what the cost is gonna be. I think it may be premature to go through and say that we'll throw a few $100,000 into the courthouse when we don't know what it's going to take in order to make it functional for adult probation. That building is set up for a courthouse.
Mhm.
And to go through and try to run it efficiently as an adult probation office, there's issues there. And the reason they're taking us to litigation is, one, they're saying that the building is in bad shape, but it's also preventing them from running their department efficiently. So just going through and doing cosmetic repairs to the old courthouse isn't going to get us out of that lawsuit.
I'm not concerned about the lawsuit, Tom. We all have the ability to litigate. What I'm
Right.
saying, though, is addressing an issue. Again, we'd all like everything to be nirvana, but I don't think we can ever have nirvana in government. First of all, taxpayers' dollars are involved, first of all. Second of all, you've got to be able to do the job within. Adult probation has been there. Other than recently, there have been major issues. Again, in 2011, we talked about putting some money into it, but at that time, you were talking about different things with the courthouse. You brought up closing it, or a homeless shelter. I think you joked about up here one time about the place. So, I mean, we didn't do anything with it, and they've been asking to do it. So I think, you know, in regards to the amount of dollars that have to be spent and what we're looking at within our budget and the veteran services dollars, I mean, there's a finite amount of money.
Right.
And I think if we can go in there and do something that's adequate for it to operate, I think that's the most responsible thing to do at this point.
I think if we continue to push and we're only going to address cosmetic issues at the courthouse, you're looking at putting in several $100,000 there. You're looking
I
at.
don't know. We need somebody, two of us, to agree on that, to look at it.
Yeah.
Everything's circumspect. Nobody knows anything at this point. I was bringing up again, it was addressed 2 or 3 years ago, and I'm trying to clean up a lot of these things on our desks.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too, and that's why I sent the emails out to the courts. They're willing to take anything that's over $1 million, and we have to start looking at the breakdown. If we're gonna spend say $300,000 to go low on the courthouse, that's $300,000 that we can go through and we could do the renovations on. That's great. But if we still go through the litigation and they win, the courts decide to go with the judges, we're still going to have to pay either additional money to meet the renovations that they need, or we're gonna have to move them, which is gonna cost additional money. I would like to avoid the entire litigation, move it to the 5th floor, because we can have a true hall of justice there and be done with it. I think in the long run, the more we spend and more time we spend on this debating it, we're gonna end up costing the county more money, either through litigation or through doing renovations that aren't going to address what their concerns are.
Well, I mean, I'm sitting here reading this email from Mr. Luby,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes, the first issue, the probation department. We had a number of lengthy discussions where the court has questioned the actual cost for commissioners to locate the probation department and other facility. Then they talk about the $1 million cost, and then the court responsible for the rest. And then we have, let me go down through this. Nevertheless, I think a definitive offer from the Commissioners Court can only presume the Commissioners wish to proceed with rehab of the old courthouse. As such, the court will continue to proceed with ensuring that this facility complies with appropriate health, safety, and security requirements, as well as the court's functional needs. And then the court will not waive the legal and ethical conflict with the Commissioners, which would allow Mr. Innes or anyone else in the prosecutor's office to provide legal representation. So I really can't ask questions of Jerry, because I do have a concern. I have never seen, or I'm not aware of, and again, I would probably have to ask an opinion of the Attorney General, because we can't use our local prosecutor, is the court allowed to use fees as a dedicated revenue stream to pay off debt service? I've never heard of that, so I have some concerns on how that's a guaranteed, 10 or 20-year bond for the couple of $1 million or $1.5 million in dollars going forward. Again, and I can't ask our
Right.
local prosecutor, they wouldn't let us. And we talked about this before. I got some questions. Would you let Jerry Innes answer them? And the court said no in their email response.
Right.
Well,
So,
can I
I mean, I'm
recommend
kind of
that
at the point.
we send a letter to the Attorney General asking him that question?
That's what I'm asking the board. I'm not gonna do
Yeah.
it as myself. As the board, are the judges allowed to?
Because they may not be allowed to
The Attorney
do what
General.
they're proposing to us.
You have a quandary here.
Right.
The Attorney General does not answer legal questions from anybody with regard to that would be outside the prosecutor's office.
Right, but we can't ask the prosecutor, but I would ask if we could waive through the courts to,
You could ask us to ask the Attorney General a question. I think we could do that for you.
I'd be real worried about Mr. Chabot Chandra coming back and then indicating that you crafted the question in such a manner, if you follow where I'm going. Come on, Jerry, now, that's gonna
Yeah.
happen. That then we end up litigating an ethical
question.
problem. They've already insinuated some unsavory doings while you guys were trying to help us, and you were subject to some abuses yourself, I believe, by Mr. Chandra. So it could get challenging to be able to get the Attorney General to come in on that with an opinion.
I just want some clarification, Jim, unless you can give me clarification as who else to ask in regards to using special funds, which are fees, and as a dedicated revenue stream for a 10 or 20-year bond.
Well, what if you get an Attorney General's opinion back says you can't, and then the judges still say you can? Does it really matter?
I think it does, Jim, in just regards to clarification when they're saying they're gonna do this, and again, they've said they would help pay for it. Again, not that I wanna go to the fifth floor, but then maybe if they can pay for some of those things, maybe we could put together a project with restoration of the old courthouse. And doing, I think it opens up a couple more possibilities, if there's ability for debt service.
Let me have some conversation. I'll call the AG's office and see. I don't want anybody tainting or suggesting our prosecutor's office is tainted with regard to this issue, to give them further ability to add that to a litigation. We don't have counsel right now. I have not engaged counsel. I'm waiting. I think it's just a matter of time, to be honest with you, but I don't want to expend funds prematurely that we don't need to. But I do have the engagement letter on my desk, and it can be executed at any time. Let me see if I can have some contact with the AG's opinion and AG's office and maybe get a course of action from them.
Is that agreeable by the board? Have Jim make a phone call?
To have Jim make a phone call on that. The other thing I would like to know from the courts, and maybe we should reach out to Mr. Luby, is will they be agreeable to using those funds in the old courthouse?
That I don't know. I think
Well,
that's
and
just, I just like to clean this up by the end of the summertime, so we know what we're doing in the fall. If we can address that issue. Again, I would like to see us stay within the courthouse, just because I would think the building operating is going to stay healthier. The minute you shut that old sandstone building down, I think we start talking about, well, when is it gonna be demolished?
Yeah.
Which I don't see. I mean, it's a downtown area. I mean, it's a beautiful historic structure. So I would see, rather, it's across the street. We have the sheriff's letter stating that he would rather see it stay in the courthouse because of the additional traffic running through. We've already got the security numbers. We're looking at another $600,000 a year in additional deputies in there for security reasons.
Well, that
Is
was
the
from
number?
that was from 2009, though.
It
That's
was.
an
It
old
hasn't gotten any cheaper.
Right, but I'm
So-
saying it's not an actual, I don't think it's an actual requirement, because I've been to other court system, they haven't implemented it. And if you go in there, there's some things in there that are just
Commissioner,
insane, too.
they're meeting on a regular basis. It's not an if with regard to that. It's a when.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened, quite frankly, by now. But they continue to meet, and I continue to get reports from the security committee. We have a representative on that. And there are going to be some costs. Now, can I tell you how bad they're going to be? I don't know. That proposal was costed out the last time there was a big go-around on that. But I know it's coming. I just don't know when.
But I think that's another issue that we've got to deal with, so with the pleasure of the board, if we can move that forward with Jim calling the AG's office in regards to the ability to dedicate special projects money towards debt service over long term. And then maybe with, you said they've got an architect going through that building?
I believe today.
It would have been nice if they notified the building owner.
Well, I don't know
that-
if they're going through the building or if they're just going through and actually,
She doesn't know.
yeah,
Okay, all right.
Once again, you can have anybody go through the building. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Correct.
Similar to crafting a letter to the AG, somebody can find that you crafted it in such a way that you're getting the answer you want. You can bring people into a building and you can get them to give you the answers you want, depending on what you ask them for.
Correct.
So I don't know that we're going to get anything that's going to be representative of something that is responsible within the scope of the dollars that we want to work with.
One more thing, I'm not done yet. City of Lorain passed the responsible bidding language ordinance. It got a lot of play in the paper, and I've talked to the building trades guys off and on for 2 or 3 years in regards to this. Jerry, I gave you a hard copy of it. I wasn't able to reach Karen this morning for our final piece of responsible bidding language. And I know we fall under a little bit different rules being county government with the state ordinances versus allowed to have the local ordinances done. But if we can get together and look at where there might be some gaps that are covered, I mean, it's a drug-free workplace, it's prevailing wage language, it's got project size, and when I was going by the state ordinances, it has on our website the PW work, the $250,000 threshold, then on smaller projects, the $82,000 threshold. You know, there's different scales of that.
Ours is not scaled. We have added the responsible bidder language that was requested of us, and we have modified that a couple times, but it hasn't really been looked at in a couple years. We
Well, the
did,
PW work is on there. That's all listed on our website, and the dates of changes in PW language, and we've got all of that.
but remembering we had to take CDBG out of the PW because the state sanctioned us on
Correct.
our CHIP program, and then we lost several hundreds of thousands of dollars because we were penalized by not being successful at getting another CHIP grant. We're out now for the CHIP grant. And Commissioner Kalo, you had the non-pleasurable experience of being with me down there in Columbus when the administration pretty much beat us to death over what we were trying to do.
I'm on my second marriage. I was used to it.
Well, so I think that we need to, if you want to freshen our policy, we should, but we should keep in mind that there's certain aspects of what we do that won't cleanly fit into some of that.
Well, that's why I brought it up. I mean, it's been all over the papers, and the building trades have been talking about it. We've had them here before talking about it, and I've sent them different programs around that communities had, and they said this came out in Lorain Monday night to a lot of discussion, but it was passed by the city council, and I just thought if I gave it to Jerry to look at and/or you to give to Karen to see where things line up at and what we're following, or if it enhances any of the current bidding language we have. So
We
just,
can take a look at that.
again, a discussion point, nothing for passage or anything. It's just it's out there.
We'll take a look at it.
All right,
End of my report.
Well, I wanted to go back to the one thing.
Which one?
On the courthouse, going back and asking Mr. Luby to, if the courts would agree to actually using those funds, if they're allowed to, for the renovation of the old courthouse. I think we need to know that as well.
I think he already answered that question when he was
It was,
here.
it was asked here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he said, no,
No,
it's
right.
not what they want, so they're not gonna pay.
Do
For
we
the
want that?
courthouse.
Do we want that in writing?
We have it better, we have it on a DVD.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was stated,
Yeah.
so.
All right,
Public
I'm
record.
just
And I
thinking
just-
some things
I'm
may have
leaning towards-
changed, but
I'm leaning towards, not leaning towards, I'm still convinced that using the Old County Courthouse is a way of keeping that building viable and maintained and operating. It is just right across the street from the Justice Center for those who violate their probation and have to go back and visit one of the judges.
Before you go to Commissioner Williams's update, I don't know if you took everything away from him with all this discussion here, but I still don't have an answer on what you want to do with veterans. This has happened to me many times. We have this great discussion, I leave the room, and we have no consensus on what needs to be done, and so the issue is still sitting here. So
I
this
don't
time,
wanna-
I'm just.
I don't
gonna
wanna
kind of-
pretend to know what's best for veteran services, but I would really think that they should revisit the idea of using one Park Landing, and maybe a satellite office in another location, if that is just a little too small for them. It just seems like a perfect site for them.
Why don't you call Veteran Service and see if they have a preference amongst the sites we've showed them? Would you agree to agreeing whatever they happen to prefer for
Well,
their
if
services?
if they prefer the annex building, I don't think that's, I mean, it might be good for them, but I don't think it's gonna be good for the majority of the, veterans wanting to utilize their services.
yeah, I have concerns with the parking down there and everything
The
else.
parking, yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
issues
Parking where?
at the annex building.
So-
The one on Broad Street?
Yeah.
We have a lot with 50 spots in it next to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's an entire lot behind it, so.
I know that one time they were interested in the old Columbia Gas building. I'd be more concerned with parking there, because the back only has a very
12
limited.
spots, I think.
Right, it's not many. So that could be a real issue. I know they liked the building though, because it gave them a big conference room and there was enough office space. And if we could cascade this, and they may still be interested in that building. We have a couple issues that are sitting out there that we really need to think seriously about collapsing together. We still have the issue of the coroner's location. That hasn't gone away, and this has been a 3-year thing now. We will have the issue of the drug and crime lab that needs to be relocated. We have the issue of locating veterans. So, those things should be looked at how they could all come together efficiently. The larger building on Broad Street would offer some ability to collapse cost and control them better than 3 different little locations. And so we're going to make some moves. I think we really need to look at that.
Mhm.
I know at one time Commissioner Williams wanted to remove the Columbia Gas Building from our inventory of assets. So that was part of the thinking at that time. I don't mean to corral you right now, but we have these talks and we just don't get anywhere.
Yeah, I think
And
we
that
need to
frustrates
wrap
the
these
people
up.
out there, and then they get mad at me, and so I think that the last building I showed Terry was the Broad Street building. I do know that there was considerable interest on the Columbia Gas Building, which would mean the relocation of those folks there. I will remind you that we talked about them going into Columbia Gas Building, and then the PSI issue came up with the courts in the
Right.
state.
And we had to find
somewhat
housing for
reneged on the
PSI.
veterans
Right.
at the time. That was a couple of years ago on that building, because we needed to house those folks that were brought over from the state someplace.
With in regards to the Columbia Gas Building, well, in general, when you give someone a facility that's oversized, what tends to happen?
Oh, I
They
don't
fill it
disagree
up.
with you.
They fill
Big
it up.
spread.
And that's not an ADA compliant.
They could probably
building.
put a fitness center upstairs somewhere.
Right, but it's not ADA compliant, so we're gonna need eventually.
Need
it's
fit
gonna be-
vets, you know. Yeah, I'm sorry.
An elevator would have to go in there, so there's gonna be additional costs that would go into that facility.
Possibly, but under the section 504 law that affects facilities rather than simply the ADA law,
Right.
especially facilities in the public sector, you can move the services to a location as long as you can deliver the services. And they would have to make adequate arrangements to deliver whatever services they were providing
first floor.
on the first floor.
Right, but they could also, once they're in that building, they could put in their budget, I believe.
Oh, I
To go in
don't
and
necessarily
actually-
disagree.
So putting that in there, we know you're looking at a huge investment in the future, just for the elevator. The elevator has to go in there if you're gonna use it for any type of government function, especially like veteran services, where the majority of the individuals that go there need some type of assistance now.
Well, I don't know if it's a foregone conclusion, especially if it's a government building. It's been a government building for 14 years now. We still
Yeah,
have
but
a
where
elevator
you're
in it.
using it for the public to come in, and where your clientele is going to be mostly an aging population. I wouldn't want to see my uncles walking up and down those steps in there when they have their canes or their walkers as well. But, so I think that facility, for me at least, should come off the table. I don't think it makes good sense. I still think that we would be better off to release that from our inventory and get that back into the public sector. I would like to have them take a look again at Job and Family Services, what we can do in order to go through and address their concerns.
Tom, they've
As
already
far-
said they don't want to be there. That's
They
the
said
issue.
one individual said they didn't want to be there. The other individual said, it was a fine location. You have
Five
a few-
board members.
5 board members.
Right.
They got to make a decision on that.
Correct.
And then the other thing is they want to move to they want to have a southern part office there. To me, it would make more sense and be more cost effective to go through, keep that building, keep them in that building, renovate it to meet their needs, and then give them an office in the southern part of the county to address those issues. Or it was talked about they were going to go with a van or a truck in order to mobile service to go to the different groups. At least they're reaching out to the veterans that way. They're not serving, they're serving the veterans that they do serve, they do a great job. But it's a small percentage for all the veterans in Lorain County.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's less than 10%.
Yeah, we need to get more, reach out to the veterans and to provide that services. I don't know how many people I've talked to who are veterans that said, well, I didn't even know we had a veteran service in Lorain County. They hear ads on the radio for Cuyahoga County. They end up calling them and then they refer them back to Lorain County. But I think the primary focus should be on outreach and providing the service to the veterans and coming up with a way to address their needs. So that would be my recommendation, to see if they would be willing to do that, and then see what they come back with. Because we didn't have a majority vote from their board when it came here. There was, what, 1 or 2 of them?
Right, well, they did the presentation. That was our budget
Right.
hearing, which we do by law with them, so.
Right. But I hear different things from veterans that are actively involved that would like to keep it there,
Okay,
because,
here's what I'm gonna do.
Right.
For you, I'm gonna give them 3 options,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna ask them to take it to their board on the 3 options. If they choose one of the 3 options, clearly we have 3 options here.
Right.
Will the board go with the one they choose?
I will go with whatever the Veteran Services wish. I think they know their job and what their job is within the community better than we do, and I haven't served, so I will defer to the Veteran Services Commissioners.
So it'll be their original location where they are, the Broad Street building, or the Columbia Gas building, those 3?
Well, I heard One Park Landing in there. I didn't hear
Okay.
the Columbia Gas Building per se, and I brought that into the conversation late.
Okay, yeah, One Park Landing.
Or their current location.
yeah.
Is that agreeable to the board based on their selection, or what are we gonna do with them?
My concern is the cost, what it's gonna be to renovate it, and,
So again, I think, again, Jerry, you probably have to do a reading for us of 5901 as to the housing for us, and give us a refresher on that, please, if you could.
how about, we ask him to give to review it, and then come back and say who has final say, and then we'll make a decision on that. I would like, and look, Jerry, you said that the way you took it was you didn't agree with them on their,
I haven't looked at it for,
okay,
you know,
all right.
a
I don't wanna
while,
put you on the
but
spot then.
my recollection is that it operates the same way as any situation. It's the commissioner's obligation to find locations for departments, and you basically have the final say as to where that is.
Okay.
But I'll look at it again.
Yeah, if you could, it's kind of gray there, Jerry, because I did look at it after Sam brought it up, and it did have, like any piece of legislation, you can look at it from
Mhm.
both sides, so. So we're gonna let Jerry come up with that opinion this week, and then Jim call Veteran Services, or is Jim gonna call Veteran Services with 3 or 4 options?
Well, Jim's not gonna do anything. Jim's going to Nashville, so I won't be here next week. So
Nashville's a
you-
great city to party in, man. It's a
The,
great
uh,
city.
No, I'm gonna be going over to Veteran
like
Services this
Memphis, too.
afternoon.
I'm going to Memphis,
anyway,
too.
so-
Oh, you're going over this afternoon, Jerry? Good. I think that's the end of my report.
Can Tom have a report now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Nope, sorry, we're out of time.
Gotta go.
I think you guys covered everything. Oh, actually, I don't think you guys brought this up, Best of Lorain County.
Oh, yeah, that,
Oh,
there's
I
missed
wasn't
one.
there.
I was there, great event.
Yeah, I made it there early, and got to go around, talk to the vendors that were there, and taste, sample some of the food. It was great. Well done job. And last night, they had the Sheffield Community Day out at the Crusher Stadium. Crushers won. I left at the top of the 9th, but they were winning 7-1. So it's always fun to go out there. Kids really enjoyed it, and it's one of the true jewels of the county, because for 6 people we went out there, and I think I spent under $120, and that was for upgrading at the table seats, and then the food and everything else, and got to have a great night at the ballpark, and always fun to go out there. So
It's a great value for the family.
it is. I mean, for Indian tickets anymore, for where I was sitting, if I got that at Progressive Field, I think I would have probably paid $70 per ticket. So, and that's the end of my report.
Madam Clerk,
Okay, there's no clerk's report today. Board correspondence.
move the reading be waived.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to address the Board of Commissioners this morning? Public comment is open. No one then? I will make a motion to go in executive session as outlined by the administrator and county prosecutor.
Second?
Any discussion? Mr. Kalo?
Aye.
Ms. Kukowski?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay.
This has been a broadcast of the recent Lorain County Commissioners' General Meeting. Unless otherwise announced, meetings are held Wednesday morning at 9:30 at the Administration Building, 226 Middle Avenue, 4th floor, downtown Elyria. These are public meetings, and you are invited to attend. Agendas are posted prior to the meeting at www.loraincounty.us. Click on Departments to see the Commissioners page, then click on View Agenda for a printable copy of the agenda.